Greetings, Alnadi viewers. I'm very happy to have with me today Christos Barbas. Actually, a lot of things to tell and the unique experience to discuss. Hi, Christos.
Hello, Fadil. Thank you for the
Yeah.
invitation.
Actually, this should have been done before, like years ago, but actually, whatever you guys are busy with, concerts, projects, teaching, and so on. So it's time to enjoy it now.
Very good. Hmm. So I was born in Thessaloniki in northern Greece. It's a port around 2 hours from the borders with Bulgaria and North Macedonia. And I was born in the 80s, in the 1980. And uh, well, my parents are teachers. Now they're retired. They were teaching physics and biology, and so
Hmm.
it was not especially music family, let's say. And some of my grandfathers sometimes had to do something with music, or some relative, but not let's say professional musician or something like that. But they are very fond of music. They listened a lot of music, and
Hmm.
so I was listening a lot of music in the house. And the first time I had music classes was when I was 7 years old. When I started flute lessons, recorder lessons in my house.
Uh-huh.
Um, so let's say this was the beginning, let's say, of
So family-wise and community-wise, now I understand the family, maybe grandfathers listening a lot to music and scientific teachers, parents.
yes.
So what about
My
the community and the neighborhood and these things?
I
Why
mean,
you go for a recorder?
I mean, I don't know if it's important, but my, I mean, maybe everything is important, but my mother's family came from the Black Sea. They were immigrants from the Pontos, from the
Mm,
Greek lands community of northern Turkey, Anatolia.
mhm,
And they came in the 20s, in the Greek-Turkish exchange of
mhm,
population. So my mother's village, let's say, which is in Drama, a bit eastern
mhm,
from Thessaloniki, um, is a village where there is a community what we call in Greece Podi, and also music was very present there. In
mhm,
fiestas, in gatherings, also in the bigger gatherings in the village with live music, dance.
mhm.
So I used to go and listen to that. I mean, you didn't have another, another option sometimes.
Yeah, interesting.
Um, and one of the first things I remember also, apart from family gatherings, also my mother sang a lot and sings a lot. She has a very nice voice.
Mhm.
Uh, I think I told you also the other day I would like at some point to make a recording of her
Yeah.
and use it in some way. Uh, we had a big cassette collection of cassettes home. My father was more listening like to classical music and jazz and various other things. And my mother was more into like traditional music or music from the radio, and they both listened to what you would hear in the time in Greece after the dictatorship, which is like the songwriting, political
Uh-huh.
music of um, Theodorakis, Hadzidakis, Xerxakos, and all these things.
Mhm,
But as I was saying, this cassette, collection of cassettes came also from a friend of my father who was listening a lot to music and making radio programs with poetry and music. So we would
mhm,
hear a lot of music there from, for example, from Eleni Karaindrou, from Keith Jarrett, Jan Garbarek, like many things also into world music, like Lorena McKennitt and various things. So from an early age, I was in home. We were listening a bit of
mhm,
everything, maybe.
mhm.
there was not. Yeah, maybe what we didn't hear really was what we called in Greece timotika, like the clarino music or the very very traditional things. Because I
Mm,
mean we're living in a city and we didn't have a direct
mhm,
connection with, let's say, village music of other places in Greece. My father was born in Corfu,
mm,
and his family was like from Epirus, Corfu, and also Komotini.
mm.
But it was a family that was not really connected with some traditional music, let's say, or something like that. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
interesting. So this is the background of what was there around you.
That was more or less until I suppose like the what I heard until I was maybe 10, 15 years old. And
Mm,
progressively as I started classes of I think I told you the other day as well that I mean the way I
mm.
started classes because I was bored. I was like, a 7-year-old boy. I was going around the house and I would make my parents crazy because I wouldn't I wouldn't stop
Yeah,
saying that I was bored.
yeah.
So at one point there was a friend of my sister that is 2 years older, and
Mm,
he would come to the gatherings and birthday parties and everything. And he with his flute, and he would play. I suppose I don't remember exactly, but he would play like Happy Birthday and things like that.
mhm.
Actually, now he's a very good journalist, one of the very, very successful podcast makers in Greece. You should check
Uh-huh.
it. Of course, he's in Greek, he's a podcast, but he's very good.
Mm,
So I remember that I had the sensation that I like this. I would like to do this, like to play music or play this instrument or whatever. No? My parents said, "Okay, you're bored. Maybe you should have classes of music with the teacher of Aris,
yeah.
of this person." And it turned out that his teacher was a very good flutist, a traverso flute from that was working actually with the first flute in the national orchestra of northern
Mhm,
Greece, Thessaloniki. I remember he was a very, very nice and very polite person. And he came for 3 years in our house when he had recorder lessons with me and with my sister. And I remember
mm.
it was like something I enjoyed. It was simple for me, but I don't remember like being like I don't remember really being like enthusiastic about it. I remember I enjoyed it. It was something we learn to read, to play.
Mm,
And after some years, he said, "Okay, the boy is he's talented, I suppose, so he should go to the conservatory."
mhm,
And that happened in the when I was 10 years old. I went to the conservatory where I continued with. Uh, by the way, my first teacher was Petros Susamoglu.
mm,
Now his son, for example, Antonis Susamoglu, is a very good violin player in the same
mm,
orchestra. He's the first violin there.
mm,
Um, so after I went to the new conservatory of Thessaloniki in um, what we call in Greek Neodio Thessalonikis. And there I had a very good education. There were many great teachers. I studied
mm,
recorded with Kostis Papazoglou, and there was one of the few, as far as I know, schools of early music. We
mm,
studied like Baroque and Renaissance music and some medieval music. And parallelly, what you do in the conservatory is you do also piano, you do harmony, uh, history of music, choir, and all this, and a
mm,
group of quartet of recorders or bigger groups sometimes, with
mhm,
which gave me what you were saying, like more like a community feeling, like playing with people, connecting with people. And I remember I felt much more connected in the conservatory than in the public high school. Let's say was our didn't have many
mm.
common interests. So
Yeah.
then the things I listen also changed a bit. I listen more to classical music. When I was around 14, 15, I was also listening more like after some seminars in the conservatory, some electroacoustic music or more contemporary music, let's say. And
Yeah.
so things gradually changed.
Yeah. So starting with the classical European music and early music, harmony, piano, all this. Then what? What happened after that?
Um,
We reached to
I,
the age 14, 15.
yes, I would say also that around this age, as far as I remember, because I don't go back so often, I remember the first times I felt like really enthusiastic about music making was also what I said before, like being part of a group, playing with with people, like feeling this group energy and making music together. But it was
Mhm.
also improvising home alone.
Mm.
I remember that, for example, something I do also nowadays, instead of working on my homework, to make this exercise, I would just get lost and play various exercise I would invent or just improvising or just playing in the
Mm.
flute and also especially in the piano. Even though I didn't have as my goal to be, let's say, a solist pianist, because well, the funny thing, with classical education is that if you start 10 years old piano, it's too late. It-
Yeah,
I mean, it's too late in the sense that you should really put your whole effort, your whole energy on the instrument to really, make it,
yeah.
18 years old. Okay, you take the diploma and then you go in Europe and you study. But now I realize that from this age, I like to do many things. So I was like doing harmony as a, and then contrapunto, counterpoint
Yeah.
as
Yes.
as a main area of study, and piano and flute, and at some point for 2 years also violoncello. I
Mm.
studied because
Okay.
I think I was a bit jealous of the classical orchestra. They play all these pieces, and me with a recorder, I could not really participate there. So it
So a
was kind of,
revenge.
it was not revenge. It was like, when you're 16, 15, you want to feel good with the instrument you play, and you will say, okay, you play the recorder. It's like kind of, it's a kind of,
Yeah.
uh, it's a very nice instrument, but it's, because it's with the Carl Orff system, it's like in the musical education.
Yeah.
It's a kind of, I think, mistreated in the way that, it doesn't play really the music it's supposed to play.
Hmm.
Uh, but anyway, what I was saying is that for me, these moments of like improvising and also composing in the piano
Hmm.
were indicative of things that really, I mean, connected me with music in a more personal level. Also, I mean,
Yeah. Mm.
um, and also
Yeah.
I
But,
remember that some pieces, for example, where we would play some, I don't know,
mm.
some Mozarts and others or whatever. It was like, okay, I don't want to play this. It's like a kind of, but the things I really liked, like I was like really wanted to play them a lot. So I really felt this connection. Like,
Yeah. But one point here. Why there was a tendency for improvisation and composition? Do they teach you in the conservatory to improvise, or it was from other external triggers?
that's a good question.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, you should you should come 30 years earlier and ask me this because now I will invent maybe the answer.
Yeah.
Uh, but trying to go back and see it more objectively, let's say, so I not build ideas about improvisation that it's this expression of your soul and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, I think in the piano, for example, what I did is that I played songs that I heard.
Mm.
And I played also for my family and in gatherings. So when people would gather, they would see piano, and it was like, okay, now Christos is studying music. Christos will play music for you. Okay. There was a part that was a bit like I didn't want to do that most of the times. I felt embarrassed,
Mhm.
but I remember that I played songs that I heard like from Hadzidakis, or after my 16, 17, I start to listen more like songwriters like Socrates Malamas or Papastodino and things like that. And I used to play all these things on the piano,
Mm.
connecting them also with the study of harmony. When you start to study and understand harmony, you can start to use this material as your own, let's say. And when you
Yeah.
see that in the songs there are patterns that are repeating again and again,
Mhm.
I think it comes I mean, you disconnect these things. The classical musicians typically is like, if you take the score out of my sight, I cannot play, no. But if
Hmm.
you understand harmony, and if you know some basic things, I think you can use it as a base to improvise.
Yeah.
So that's one part. I think. I mean, I really think that the classes of I had a very good teacher in harmony, also Vasilis Kitsos, is a
Mm-hmm.
wonderful person and a very good composer as well. So I think also I don't really remember right now,
Mm-hmm.
but I am sure, and I remember the sensation that my teachers also were inspiring creativity. They were,
Mm-hmm.
they, it was not just like, you should play this and stop. And as I said before, also the fact that we had recordings home of improvised music. For example, I remember one of the first CDs when the CDs came.
Mm-hmm.
We took a CD player from a supermarket or something like that, and I
Mm-hmm.
think I remember the first CD I had was the piano concerto by Schumann in A minor,
Mm-hmm.
which is amazing, and it has some parts that I would go addicted and just play again the same part of the piece, where it had a nice um, sequence of harmony I liked very much.
Mm-hmm.
I remember it now. I have it in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And
Started playing.
it's a very nice one. And then the second CD, if I'm not mistaken, or very, very soon, my father got from a friend of his the Keith Jarrett concert, the Cole concert, the concert in
Mm-hmm.
Cologne, which is, I mean, it's a historic album, a recording, and it's, from the year 74, 75, more, if I'm not mistaken. It's a fully improvised concert. And I remember I heard this recording a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So when you hear also people improvise, you know that it can be done in some way, I suppose. Again, I cannot go back in time so concretely as to remember, I heard the concert and I improvise. I don't think it worked like that.
Mm-hmm.
But very soon I was not only improvising, but composing also my pieces that were not, I would not write them.
Yeah.
Maybe I wrote them at some point, but I would record them. So I remember that the younger, the younger sister of my father,
Mm.
Lucia, was very like, very perceptive and very loved music and loved
Mm.
me. Of course, we loved each other. So she would invent stories like fairy tales or things like that, or read books with her husband as well. And they would come and they would read stories, and I would improvise. I would just accompany the story, and we loved it, and it was like great.
Wow.
And when
Mm.
they heard also my pieces, they said, "Okay, let's go to the studio and record them." So we went to uh, I think that was in the year '95, if I'm not mistaken, to the studio Agrotikon of Nikos Papazoglou, which is like a historic singer and songwriter from Thessaloniki. Um, and we just recorded one afternoon there, these 10 pieces or whatever. Actually, I don't have this
Oh.
recording. I mean, I have it as a cassette. I should digitalize at some point. There were like
Mm.
sketches, a bit uh, like I said, improvisations that I guess were crystallized into compositions. Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. So we went that track until when? What happened next after
Um,
the conservatory and these things? Did it come to an
no,
end?
then
Did it
the end of
change? Yeah.
Yes. So many things happened at the same time. The end of the conservatory coincided with the start of the university, and also the start of interest and study of the Ney and Turkish classical music and Byzantine music and other things. So when I was just, let's say, beginning to prepare for the university, because university in Greece is a big thing. Like if you don't go to the university, you are a failure. Yeah, it's like it's chaos. Yeah, it's like a big precipice, and you just fall.
Yeah.
Um, no, I mean really. I mean in Greece, I finished high school in the year '98, And I suppose it was maybe a bit better time for Greece than now. I mean, in the sense that, we've passed many crises and many, pandemics and everything. But even then, Greece being like let's say a relatively poor country, it's not a Central Europe economy. No, it's not Germany, it's not France, it's not Spain.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's this kind of thing that if you don't go to the university and if you don't get a job, what are you going to do? It's like, uh, and actually, this is a very important point apart from my story about the story of
Mm.
musicians, of music in Greece.
Yeah.
Uh, if you don't teach, for example, in the public school as a musician, there are very very few things you can do. I mean, you can
Mm.
teach in a private school, and if you want to perform, okay, there are some things you can perform and live just by performing, but just by doing music. But I would say that on a creative level and music level, usually they are limiting. I mean, you must play with somebody who's very popular or be very popular suddenly when you're 20 years old. And it's not easy. I would say it's nearly impossible to be like a performing and creative musician in like to play your own music in Greece
Yeah.
or to play like traditional music or various other things in in a situation where people will listen to you and will not talk, shout, eat, just make noise.
Yeah.
It's not easy. So anyway, going back to my story, when I was around 16, from the conservatory and from the whole situation, there was kind of okay, what is Christos going to do? And with my family, I don't know what I'm going to do. Am I going to study in the university or continue with classical music? There was the idea of going in maybe in Austria or some place in Europe to study to continue, let's say, with the composition and the direction of orchestra studies. But that was
Mm-hmm.
a kind of just an idea. It was not a reality. Let's say I didn't. Actually, I never thought of being a director of orchestra, let's say, but I guess it was a bit like the normal path of a person in the conservatory that had some, uh, that had good grades in harmony, had the imagination, and would play
Mm-hmm.
various instruments. No, so at this point, especially my parents, because I don't remember if I had an opinion or not. I was kind of bewildered, I think, by all these possibilities that I didn't know what they meant. I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and actually, my parents were more of the opinion, okay, going to Europe and studying abroad is a good thing, but maybe you will take more advantage of a new situation when you are a bit older. If you're just 18 and you go out, it's like a kind of
Mm-hmm.
who am I? What's happening? No,
Mm-hmm.
and actually, I think it was a good thing. It felt good. It felt good to give exams and go to the musicology department, the musical studies department in the Aristotle University in Thessaloniki,
Mm-hmm.
which even now I think it's a great department, like very good teachers and like if you see what university music schools generally uh, are, I think that it has a good crew of people.
Mm-hmm.
And there, I mean, again, it was more musicology. It was like um, a bit from the German type, I would say. A lot of musicology, a lot of history of music, also
Mm-hmm.
harmony and all these things. But we also had the ethnomusicology. We also did some traditional music. We did improvisation, for example, later on, free
Mm-hmm.
improvisation, which was a great class with Panagiotis Kanelopoulos. I don't want to say too much names because then maybe I should say all the names of the teachers, which
Yeah.
as we commented also last time we met. I think it's a gift. It's a great thing to meet good musicians and good teachers because they are the ones that
We'll address some names soon.
yes.
Yeah.
So coming back like to your question, um when I entered the musicology department, it was also a time where I met more people, saw more ways of doing music. You know, people would play in some improvising or playing more jazz or playing like songs and of their own in a mixed, let's say, environment. I became also some band member of some bands that were playing songs
Hmm.
um, and it was like very soon I could see that only like with classical music I could not really exist in this, let's say, new environment. I would meet
Hmm.
friends that were playing like Bulgarian music or Turkish music, or would mix everything and play in, you know, in music, what we called yeah, music
Fusion.
clubs.
Club.
Yes, also,
Mm.
yeah. But I would
Mm.
say they played in various situations, like, and with the recorder, you didn't really have a place there. So I think
Mm.
on one part it was this, that was one thing, and I didn't at this point I didn't feel like a piano player, like it was kind of I guess I connected it more with classical music.
Hmm.
So at this point also the a kind of I heard the Ney also, I think one of the first times in Socrates Malama's band. He's one of the songwriters I told you. He's one of the very good songwriters in Greece, I guess, the
Yeah.
last decade. And in his band, Kostas Theodorou, a very good musician, an improviser and composer and orchestrator,
Mm.
was playing the Ney. And I think that is one of the first times I heard it like live in a concert. And it was like, ah, that's interesting. That's a flute, but sounds like more with more air. Oh, it's nice.
Mm.
And then also uh, Kaimakis, I don't remember his first name now, a teacher of us in the ethnomusicology class,
Hmm.
was playing the ney, also the Arabic ney, and he made us make PVC neys in class, you know, with opening the holes and just having a PVC. And I
Mm.
remember that was maybe I was 19 or 20, and I remember going back home or being with a friend of mine that we were playing flute together, a recorder, and we were like,
Yeah.
okay, so we must make sound. How do you make sound from this? And I remember it took me like 4 hours to make sound or
Wow.
something, but I wouldn't stop. And occasionally it happened, yeah, because when you're playing other wind instruments, your memory and you have a habit of making sound in a specific way. So a new way is like a bit, sometimes people that have never played wind instruments before make sound faster.
Mm.
Anyway, so
So you needed
apart
to
from
unlearn. You needed to unlearn.
yes,
Or
exactly.
relearn. Yeah.
And in a way, this, I mean, more practical, I mean, this real contact with the instrument, just hearing it and seeing it, and then some people playing it, with a more, I guess, general interest of, okay, I was like the last 10 years, I was practicing like, I was into more classical music, as I said, and a bit more contemporary music and all these things. At this point, I heard a lot of Alfred Snitke also. He was one of my favorite composers. Like, I don't know if you know him. He's a Russian composer, very good. Um, and I was like, okay, all these things are very nice, but what's happening here? I mean, around the place where I live, or what's happening, you know, a bit eastern or whatever, no? So the ney and the kaval, the Bulgarian flute, kind of appeared at this time as a thing that I could do relatively easily. I could play, and I there was a chance to learn actually.
Hmm.
So I remember at the time when I was kind of pondering with this with this idea that I saw in a cafenio in a bar, this small little poster with the image of Ross Daly,
Hmm.
and it was saying ta ta ta, and traditional instruments taught Ney Caval. And I said, oh, okay, I know this guy, I know this mustache, but and Ney Caval interests me, so maybe it's a good idea to go. Ross was some of the musics that I had listened to without really knowing exactly who he is or what he does, but just I remember the sound of the lira,
Hmm.
and I think some of his CDs were part of this cassette collection we had. No, I think it was in Avia, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm.
And so I went to this music conservatory where he taught. Actually, he came, as far as I remember, from Crete to Thessaloniki for some time, um, every week or something. And there, I met the Kaval teacher and I met the Ney teacher also. And the Kaval
Hmm.
teacher at this point, I don't remember why, but I think he was also in the military service or something. So
Hmm.
he was out, so it didn't feel really that would continue there. But the Ney teacher, I really liked, and he was a person also that some friends of mine talked to me about him. So one friend that I didn't, for example, was Kyriakos Tapakis. He's a very, very good oud player, exceptional oud player and musician. And he was in the university with me. So he would play a lot of Turkish music, Armenian music. He's really like a virtuoso in the oud from an early age. I mean, when he was a virtuoso in the oud, I didn't catch the name in my hands. So he told me, okay, yeah, yeah, you want to play the name? You should have classes with Marcos Koulios. And I said,
Mm.
okay, Marcos Coelho, who is that person? And then I found him teaching in this school where Ross Daly was. That was Galaxias. That was a music school owned or organized by Haris Simonides, which is a Greek cantor of Byzantine music,
Uh-huh.
mainly, and traditional music singer, as far as I remember. But and so Marcos was a great. It was like it was I was very lucky to have him as my first NA teacher.
Mhm.
As we talked the other time, also he has also a scientific background in physics or in political engineer. I don't remember exactly, but he has this kind of mindset of more numbers, and he talks
Mm.
about all the intervals and everything, and this systematic knowledge and vision of the Makam.
Yeah.
And he had also contact. He was a student of Sinuserinta Nikorou also on the wood,
Ah, okay. Cenacak.
and
Yeah.
yes, and he studied also with Murat Salim Tokac in the NEI. He gave him, I think, as far as I remember, the first, let's say,
Yeah.
um, instructions. Um, so he was in Thessaloniki at the time, and we started classes together. So that at the same time or very soon, um, I don't remember when that exactly happened, but I Marcos was also teaching in another school uh, where Panagiotis Nochoritis, which is a very important cantor in Thessaloniki at this time. Now he's the first cantor. I don't know how you call this in the Patriarchio in Istanbul. So he had a school where he taught basically Byzantine music. So that kind of tied together, like connected. So I said, okay, I'm learning the ney, so maybe it would make sense also to learn some Byzantine music. I failed totally there. It was like, for me, all these signs. I mean, I struggled to learn them, but I didn't feel that they could connect directly with what I was doing. It was like a kind of an extra effort to do something I could do very easily with notes, so it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
But it makes sense to be taught, at least for some months or years, in a very oral way to listen and try to imitate. I remember
Hmm.
because we would not have classes with Panayotis himself. We would have classes with his students, and
Mm.
they would negate. They would didn't explain. We would ask, "Where is this note?" and say, "Oh, whatever you hear." It was like
Hmm.
you just imitate it. So it was a good. And there also Baris Bal was teaching and playing, accompanying Panayotis. And Baris was a friend of Marcos and a very good tambour player and saz player and singer.
Mm.
He's a Turkish, let's say, political refugee in Thessaloniki. And soon I mean, I would go to Thessaloniki and listen to Nate Tambour duet by Marcos and Baris, which was a great experience and very lucky, when you're 21, 22, to have in the
Mm.
place where you live a duet of Nate Tambour. After, I would really study a lot this duet and understand many things. So I was, and very soon we start to play also with Baris as a duet. When Marcos, I think he moved, I think he made 1 year study in London, and then he moved occasionally. He moved eventually to Arta, where he's now an ethnomusicology teacher and also teaches Ney and other things.
Hmm.
And anyway, so that was this beginning of the next, let's say, stage, as you
Yeah.
implied a bit. And
Mm.
yes, especially in the Turkish like style and this playing with Baris was a great school as well, just to be able to play with tambour player and tune.
Exactly. So now it's like an indication of an immigration happening from one mindset, one training, one kind of exposure to a new place, totally a new place, taking your furniture and stuff with you as well.
Yes, it,
So
it felt like that. Yeah,
yeah, so maybe it's a good time now to take a break, and maybe
sure.
you share with us one of the pieces and you tell us why.
Right. Yeah. So the first piece I chose. Usually I don't like to choose pieces because I don't really like to listen to my music like that. It's like all these things now. But the first thing I chose is uh, is a piece where I play the piano
Hmm.
because it connects with this first idea we talked about, that this direct relation with the piano, which was one of the first instruments, let's say, I played
Hmm.
in an environment where we're improvising. It's a recording that comes 10 years after what we're talking about. It's like
Hmm.
to be continued, but it
Yeah.
is a stage when I was around in the year 2010, 2012, when
Mm.
I came back to the piano and started to play with Dimitris Tassoudis and Pavlos Spiropoulos, which was the formation of what we called after Magnanimous Trio, which kind of relieved, let's say, relieved this
Mm.
habit of just improvising and creating music together. But as I feel it, at least, this music is also influenced by the modal experience of the Makam and Ney. But then
Mm.
anyway, it's a piece that it's called a Sunday Morning, and
Mm.
the 95% of it is actually improvised. There is a very very small theme that comes and goes or appears or not. And so yeah,
Mm.
I thought we can hear that. It's with Dimitris Tassoudis on the drums and Pavlos Spiropoulos on the piano, on the contrabass, and I'm playing the piano.
So we'll travel through time now, listen to it, and come back.
Okay.
So, Christos, let's travel back in time and take us from where we stopped before the piano improvisation piece, Sunday morning.
Yes. So what you were saying before, it's very true. It felt like an immigration. Like I stayed in Thessaloniki for the time being,
Mm.
but it really felt like consciously I wanted to kind of stop what I was doing before. Sorry, I just had a biscuit, and and I was aware that the study of the ney and this new music, new old music I was getting into was so
Mm-hmm.
different from what I did before that it really required a kind of cut.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember that I did, for example, 2002 more or less. I did my diploma in the recorder. I just finished this, and then I also stopped the piano lessons. I did the counterpoint diploma. I also stopped it, and progressively I got more into the ney. There was one year when I was like doing that was my first travel in Spain when I did my Erasmus in Granada. I spent 1 year in Granada.
Mm-hmm.
And there it was kind of okay. I played the ney, but I was not playing a lot, and I mean, as always, like learning some new things, listening to flamenco, just living the university life in Granada. But I was not really focused on something. But that changed when I came back to Greece just the summer in 2003,
Mm-hmm.
where I don't remember if I saw it like by mail or online uh, of if or if Marcos told me or
Mm-hmm.
how, but I saw that in Crete there was a 1 week seminar of Ney.
Mm-hmm.
Said, oh, that sounds interesting. And then I saw the teacher was Omer Dokdular, and the name sounded familiar, but then they told me, or I looked at, he was a Neizen that was playing in Vosporos, this um, very important group from Turkish musicians back from
Mm-hmm.
the 80s, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, I have to go. Like I was playing the Ney, I was like, getting more into it, but at the same time, not really knowing if it was something I wanted to do, like full time. But at the same time, I liked it, and so I went to Crete this summer, and it was the first summer that the let's say the labyrinth seminars happened in a way that a bit similar with what's happening now. 1 week of intense seminars. Before 2003, I remember Ross had also invited, I think, Netzati Tselik or some other musicians, but it was a bit more short, if I'm not mistaken. Or so it was the
Mm-hmm.
first summer that I went there, and Ross actually was by himself there with Mitsos Stavrakakis. So I think it
Mm-hmm.
was two persons that were organizing this summer. A very small seminar with Omer Hoja. I think we were 5 or 6 persons.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but even from this seminar, it was an amazing experience. Actually, it was the first seminar, so it was the most mind-blowing experience of listening to a incredible Neizen, incredible name musicians playing in front of you. I've never heard like a. I mean, Marcos is playing very well, but he didn't do it for his whole life. And Omer is like, he's the name. He's like, uh,
Yeah.
one thing is that, and the other was like Omer's like attention and commitment and just absolute like love for teaching and for the music. So we would spend like hours and hours and hours more than the 6 hours of the seminar, just repeating it again and again and Taksim and all this. No, actually,
Mm-hmm.
from this very first seminar, we were a very good group of students. I remember for sure it was Haris Labrakis was there. I think
Mm-hmm.
also Nectarios Stamatelos was there. I don't remember if Nikos Paraolakis was there, but very probably yes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and some other people. I think Yorgos Meonidis, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe Yorgos came the other year. Anyway, people that they play until today and are teaching and are great musicians and co-students. So yes, that was the first time I went to Labyrinth, and it was like it was a very important experience. It showed me like that really this is something I want to do. I felt connected also with the way that music was being made, the way that Ross welcomed us,
Mm-hmm.
everyone. And after this, I mean, I don't remember exactly, but I think it was July or beginnings of summer.
Mm-hmm.
I went back in September where there was a seminar of Bulgarian music.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was a big group of people that came, like Nedialkov was there teaching Kaval. They also performed. Georgi Petrov was there, a great musician and Gadulka player. Unfortunately, he has passed away some years
Hmm.
ago. And there was like, yeah, there was Angel Dimitrov, I think, the tamburica player.
Mm.
I'm not sure if his surname is Dimitrov, but yeah, anyway.
Mm.
And so it was the same experience, let's say, because I saw it worked. Like in 1 week, you could, you could just maybe not learn, but you could expose to so many things that then you could like use this material just to work and learn so much.
Yes,
Um, and I say that because I was okay focused more on the Ney, but Labyrinth was a place where that you could get this experience of other musics as well. So it was
a lot of
a good
exposures.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Mm.
Interesting. So that's a week of a summer where you get bored with a lot of experience to digest,
Hmm.
and then you disappear.
Hmm.
Then you come to the next summer, right? So as far as I understand, this repeated every summer,
Yes.
right? And what do you do in between and so on? Take us into that from your perspective.
Mm.
Hmm.
Um, Especially for the Neo or in general, maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean,
in
my
general, like
experience.
the way your own, yeah.
Yeah, my experience was that um, usually in music lessons,
Mm.
I mean, and I say usually because I don't want to generalize that everybody does it the same. It's not. Music classes are depend on the teacher and the student and the context, of course. But
Yeah.
at least one model is that you go to the class and the teacher
Hmm.
comments things. He listens to you and he comments things, and maybe he will play something, but he will do observations, and then you have to go back home and correct these things. No,
Hmm.
and the way that at least it worked with in the NA class with Omer and other classes as well is
Mm.
that you don't exactly do that. What you
Mm.
do is like you play a lot, you listen a lot, you listen. I mean, Omer always used to say that the class where the teacher, when the student plays more than the teacher, is a bad class. And
Mm.
maybe I'm saying it in my own words now, but more or less it was this. And what does that mean? It doesn't mean that the student doesn't have to play, but it means that the way I understand it, and I think the way also Omer explained it is that the acoustic experience of what is heard should be from the person, let's say, that does it well. So that can create the memory, and this memory and this experience then it will take in you, from you, let's say the music art's supposed to be, let's say. If
Oh,
all the day you're listening to students playing the music like in a 15%, this, I don't say it's bad. I don't say music students who don't play music. It's not about this, but it's about creating the imprint, of
yes.
what of how the music. I mean, yeah,
Is
music
said
is
or
full force.
expressed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
full
yeah.
force.
Mm.
So, but this combined with a lot of practice. So what we would do with Omer is like play, for example, 8 hours per day, or 10, or 6, or 12. Sometimes we
Hmm.
would get to 13 hours, repeating for hours. So playing a lot, and
Yeah.
then listening to each other. Like listen to Omer play, listen to one bar, 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, the same thing. So you know, repetition, we talk about repetition a lot, but when you say one thing uh, another time, another time, another time, another time,
Hmm.
you give time to the brain to be attentive of the details
Hmm.
of, another
Yes.
time, of the melody, of the nuances, of everything. If you don't do that and just keep on talking about things, blah, 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 it's like the brain is like just, oh, okay, I have to manage and just keep on track, but I cannot focus, you know.
mm,
So I think this word focus is the key to everything. Like, you know, you must sit and do one thing without being bored,
mhm,
because if you're bored, then it doesn't work. You know, you get cut, you know, you get disconnected from what's happening.
mm,
And so you play a lot more than you would play alone home. You know, you're playing with people, which is great, and then you hear your teacher and you hear the other persons, which also is a great
mhm.
experience, because what I said before, it's not that nobody should play, eh?
Yeah.
No, but it's not that you don't listen to Christos, for example, for 2 hours playing, because okay, Christos is learning. So I mean, you can hear him. It's very. This is a great thing about group learning, that you can hear yourself and then you can hear other people, and maybe other people are doing possibly the same, let's say, mistakes that you're doing, or maybe they got something that's wonderful, or you know, you're just listening to Haris playing, and it's you enjoy just his character through the music, no. But all this process is very you learn so much in so many ways, and it's not just let's say mental intellectual, you should play with more dynamics, or you should do that, huh? No, it's more kind of music sounds like that, do it yourself. And Omer
Mm,
actually very rarely did some observation of you you should do this, or you did that, or you play well or you don't play well. In my uh, more or less 12, 13 years of standing intensely with him, like every year, I don't think he ever said, he said, very nice. And then
yeah.
he would just play the music and play many times the same thing. So you learn how to play this. And he wouldn't show you exactly how to do it, but he would do it a lot. So you have the chance to open your eyes and
It's
see.
like the natural language teaching from parents.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And it is a Meshk model, right?
Yes. Yes.
Mm, mm. Interesting.
Ah. Now, to answer your question, how this then is used or transferred, or how this experience continues to live during the year, it's
Mm,
interesting. There's a kind of fade out for me. It was a fade out. It's
mm,
like you get so many things that you don't know exactly what you got, but it's kind of an inspiration, like an energy you have, and then you want to make music and you continue. And then during the year, it kind of, in a way, it faded out, and then you need you want your doses again.
yeah.
Um, Now, I would explain this in the sense of, okay, if you're not connected with people playing, then you kind of lose your ¿cómo se llama? Animo, your inspiration to play. Your
Hmm.
obviously this relates with the situation of everyone, you know, in real life, in the city or in the village or in the place where he lives, no? But in Labyrinth, what we have many times, it's because it's such a, you know, many times it's a kind of special interest that unites us. I mean, if you live in
Hmm.
Istanbul, or, you know, maybe in Athens or somewhere where everybody around you is playing this music, maybe it's more easy to get and play together. But if you're a bit more far away and there are few people you're making this music with, then what I think I saw and many other people saw is that you have to create the opportunity
Hmm.
to play this music, because they will not be given. It's not like, or at
Hmm.
least it was not back in the year 2000. Now I'm not sure what's happening in Thessaloniki or in Athens, because I live in Barcelona for some years now.
Hmm.
But anyway, so what happened is that during the year, through making groups, through playing this music, or through teaching it, or through learning it in different ways. Back then we didn't have the online thing came for me after 2011, 12. um,
Mm,
so you just have to keep, let's say, the fire burning, you know, in whatever way. Go back to the recordings for sure. You know, the recordings from the seminars was like, okay, I know this percef. I mean, I know we studied this percef, and I've played it. But now the details and the and the and everything that's happening is so much that you only scratch when you are 1 week playing this piece. You're just scratching the surface what's happening, and
Mm,
you're with people, and many times you're playing for 1 hour, and actually you cannot listen to what you're doing, and that
yeah.
can occasionally be a good thing.
Mm,
But when you're home, you should do this, let's say. And as a music student, always, I mean, what I do even nowadays that I'm learning, I'm making classes with teachers. I mean, I'm learning as a student. I record the lessons, asking, of course, the
yeah.
permission. But I record the lessons, and then during the week I listen to them again, and it, it takes you to another level because you have the time and the security of your space, and you can pause and you can put in slow speed or whatever, and you can really make use and real understand what's happening. Also, what the
Mm,
teacher says, but also, for example, when playing, really, you know, go in the detail. Like this ornament or this interval. Listen again and again and again, and try to make it. And then
yeah.
occasionally you will do it after some time or some years.
Hmm. Interesting.
Mm.
So that was the trigger. Huh? So before you were studying music in one way, you switched to another way. The way you practiced, memorized things, the way you were picking pieces and so on, the way you express music to the after, the before and the after. Do you want to comment on the differences before 2033 and after 2003 from your perspective as well?
Well, yes, I don't want to create or to reinforce, dichotomies like Western music like this, in Eastern music is like that.
No,
No, I'm not
actually,
saying you saying that. Yeah, I'm just
yeah,
saying that for me it felt really changed, but I think it was as explained. Also, I think this is why personal experiences in the life have interest not by themselves, because it would be boring. Just okay, I was born this year and I went to university. Who cares? I mean, okay. But
exactly.
I think they're interesting in the sense to contextualize why some changes happen, and what do they mean. For example, in my case,
Mm,
let's say, as I talked about, the first seminar with Omer was a bit
mm,
mind blowing in the sense that it showed me what you can do when you focus.
mhm,
I am not saying that I didn't focus before. I focused,
mm,
but not in this way, not in a group context. At
mhm.
the same time, doing a very personal study because you're playing your instrument, and something you connect, obviously, with many ways, emotionally and acoustically, and even what you want to what this music means to you, because you're not just there because it's not nice, let's play, guys. It's like, no, I mean, music in general goes deep, and this music also has this more, let's say, you're not playing for fiesta and for mojito and for people dancing,
Yeah,
uh, so I would say it showed me this, and then this, okay, eventually it it showed ways of practicing, sorry, also the piano or the harmony or fugue or whatever, but in in the same way, like to um, to be directly connected with the sound, if that makes sense.
mhm,
Because when you
yeah,
focus, it's you and the sound. Of course, it's everything else, but
mhm,
when you work so much with sound, in the end, it's a very close relationship that
mhm.
um, is not narrow. Maybe it would be like, oh, no, it's opening,
Yeah, yeah,
it's opening things.
mm,
Um, yeah, I don't know if I
yeah,
answered the question.
yeah. I mean, learning, practicing, the way you treat music or deal with the music, as you say, the sound, what gets you a new kind of door opening to things or gate opening to things. Maybe the way we practiced before was something because of the nature of music versus this one. Now the pieces with Omar, maybe they were Bashrafs, Samais, Ilahis,
Mm,
Sharkis,
yes,
Taksim's, improvisation, the thing you were having a huge tendency to from the
yes,
beginning,
yes,
and
yes, yes.
composition. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, in this
Mhm.
sense, it was also at some point I understood that it was not so different actually what I was doing before, and
Mm.
it was about it's more the way you practice than what you practice exactly.
Mhm.
Of course, different musics will sound different, but yeah, for me it was a kind of realization and a lesson of you know how to create a context where you can concentrate creatively, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
For me personally, when I try to concentrate and creativity is not a part, usually I have a kind of, oh, I don't want to do this. I mean, the teenager
Mm.
arises in me, and I said, I have to do this, but I will do something else, something, easier, something, whatever.
Yeah.
But when this effort and this concentration is part of making music in a like, say, I don't know how to call it, in an active way, like, sharing with
Mm.
people, listening to it. For me, that's for my personality, it's a bit more concrete and I can relate with it.
Mm.
For example, because we talked last time we talked, where we preparing this
Mm.
conversation, you were talking about the ayin I composed. Well,
Yes.
this ayin was composed also because we programmed a concert with it. I
Mm.
know, I mean, maybe some other persons are composers are like, I'm going to compose this piece and just I'm shut in my room and I will have the score and I will compose this. No, maybe it works like that for some people, but um, for me, it doesn't work like that. I mean, maybe sometimes I will have this idea and I will just close everything and write it down. But because of my characters and because I'm doing so many things and it's like, oh, I like so many things, I
Mhm.
need the tangible goal of, we're making this project, we have this group, so we're making this, so make it happen, so the ayin
Mm.
was actually composed because I had 2 months and I had a concert. I had the sketches from before, but it was
Mm.
okay, now I will put myself in order to make it. And I passed
Mm.
a week. Actually, it was the pandemic, so it was a good chance.
Yeah.
But I would pass some days like 12 hours of just composing or writing scores or correcting or the lyrics or whatever, no? So,
Mhm.
but it didn't feel like
The task.
I mean, no, it felt like a task. It didn't feel like limiting or that I have to do this. No, it was like you're
Yeah.
into it
Yeah.
and you're just flowing. Just you
Yeah.
just enjoy
Yeah.
it. Uh, so yeah, for me, that's what I'm searching, like to create or find this environment where concentration and work, because it's work,
Mm.
but it can
Yeah.
happen without a sensation that I'm working. And that's why I always say that for me music is not work. It's it's what I do. I love it. It's not, I don't feel that I'm doing something I don't want.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really recommend the Alnadi viewers to go and listen to the Ayin. It's available online on YouTube, and it
Yes.
is really interesting. Yeah.
I mean, this recording was not supposed to be there, actually. We were not so ambitious as to say we're composing it again and we're going to record it and videotape it. No, it was not the intention at all. It was much more modest. It was like, actually, because we're talking about this, the at some point with with Efren Lopez, the
Yeah.
friend and
Greetings to
your
Efren.
interviewer. No, how you
Yeah.
yeah, he was interviewed by you. We
Yeah.
were talking about, okay, what should we do next concert for Labyrinth Catalunya, and it was actually when we were going out of the pandemic. Let's say we thought we were going out, but it was one of these waves.
Hmm.
So a friend, he's an enthusiast of Makam and Kudum. So he says,
Yes.
let's play an Ayin. I want to play Kudum. Um, okay, it was something different. We didn't did it before here, and it was a
Mm.
good idea. And for some years, I had some sketches, like ideas recorded, and this I had an idea that I would like to use these ideas to record to compose an ayin. So I told to a friend, uh, maybe instead of playing like a composed in a traditional one, maybe I can compose one and play it. And a friend said, okay, whatever. And so we programmed it and eventually prepared it. And a friend helped also a lot with, he would send me some usuls pre-recorded so I could check things and everything. And then we programmed the concert, and it was
Mm.
supposed to happen in Cardedeu, and we didn't think of recording, but it was okay. Let's play it. I invited actually people from around from Spain to play it because we could not. People at the time would not travel. If travel,
Yeah.
maybe it would be nice to have a I don't know. Apart from people of Spain, to have some international, let's say, group. At this
Mm.
time, it was like, okay, we are here. Let's so I invited like also some musicians around, some other friends or sometimes students that were studying this
Yeah.
music. So, uh, but when the concert then was prepared, I think like a few days before, we were like, okay, another COVID wave.
Mm.
The public cannot appear. It's forbidden. So we were like, oh, what should we do? And then it was like this idea came. Actually, the next day we had a concert with Eleanor Forniao,
Mm.
another concert we make at this the same 2 days, and it was a great concert. Actually, this is also on YouTube,
Mm.
in Labyrinth Catalonia website, YouTube channel. And
Mhm.
so we said, okay, no public in the concert, so let's stream them. Did we stream them? I don't remember. But we for sure we recorded them with the multi-camera and the sound. So yeah, I mean the first intention was just to modestly just compose it, play it for the village, and see how it works. But it happened this way that we recorded it actually in this way, and it came nice. I mean, if you take in consideration that we had uh, relatively limited time to prepare it. We're
Yeah.
rehearsing for 3 4 days, which is not a lot if you want to, you have 1 hour of continuous music. But it came out very well, and people were happy. We had a good time, and so
It was very nice, and actually, it was courageous decision
yes, it
to
was.
compose an ayin and then perform it in that context and in that difficult time.
Yes,
Yeah.
on one part, yes. On the other part, it's not so difficult as it seems.
Mhm.
Also, the composing and playing, it is a task. It's something you
Mm.
really put the hours of doing it. But something that happens with a yin is something interesting. It gives you the time and the space and the opportunity to get more into a makam. And when
Mm.
you get in, it carries you with it in some way.
Yes.
Actually, there was a nice comment from the cello player from Sasha Granov, which originally he doesn't play, Agin, and he plays various other stuff. He does circus stuff and improvisation and other stuff, but he's a very good musician and interested in all these things. And he said it was a very nice opportunity for us, especially in the rehearsals, to search for the sound because normally you don't do this in bands. And
Yes.
what does that mean to search for the sound is when you're playing with 10 people, I mean, you can get together with 10 people, just play, and it sounds good. But when you play a lot,
Mm.
there's some kind of process that's happening which is semi unconscious. It's unconscious, but it's conscious at the same time,
Yeah.
that you modulate the way you play so the group sounds well.
Yeah.
And this is very important because time is necessary to do that. You cannot do it in half an hour. I mean, I think even the best musicians, I mean, to say it in another way, if excellent musicians play together for half an hour, they will sound great. If they play
Mm,
together for 1 week, something else will happen.
exactly.
So
And
it's a
that
kind of
takes us back to the culture you discussed
yes,
through the
yes,
mashq and repetition and
yes. Time
repetition.
is
Yeah.
time. You cannot skip it. You cannot say now
Mhm.
it's Saturday, now it's Monday. No, it's not. So
Interesting. And who will compose an ayin these days? Let's not forget this.
as I said, also the composition is not so difficult as it seems.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, talking with Ross, we were recommending it, and as far as I know, he hasn't composed again still, but he was also saying that I presume it's not so difficult. I mean,
Mm,
the first thing is, for example, I think we talked about this also the other time, is that
mm,
a big part of the ideas that are there are improvised.
mm.
I
Yeah.
don't I don't know if we talked about this, but for me, like I can say, one of the goals I have, or one of the things I like in music, when something when a compositions when a composition has the live sensation and the freshness of improvisation, and
Hmm.
also when improvisation has the sensation that is composed, that it is that is something that has structure, possibly a direction, an intent as a composition.
Yeah, yeah.
And this maybe sounds very, very far apart, but actually it's not so far.
Hmm.
And many of the ideas in this again were recorded with a mobile phone when I was in my car, actually, making as you long drives in Crete at this
Yeah.
point. And you have the rhythm. You
Mm,
know that the rhythm, for example, in the first selam, in the first sang part, is 14/8, no? And
mm,
actually 14/8 sounds 14, no, it's just 7 and 7, 3 to 2, 3 to 2. So you have this
mhm,
beat, you have the makam, and so you're just improvising on it. And
mhm.
the words help you. I mean, this is the first stage for me, at least for me, eh?
Yeah.
So it's not so difficult. Then maybe the most, not complicated, but laborious part is when you have the ideas and you're a bit. That happens, I think, many times before any composition. There are so many possibilities and there are so many ideas that you say, which of these 100 should I choose to have 10? And
Yeah.
this is also that it's a process that you do, and after sometimes you see it's doable, and you
Hmm.
just need to sit and put the time and the care to do it. And the
So
next time also, and then sorry, and the next time also, again it feels like undoable, and you say, oh, I have to do it again. But anyway, this is
yes,
like
yes.
it is.
So now you listen to Christos, guys. He's promoting composition, promoting this kind of thing. It's easy, so go ahead and compose.
For sure, I'm totally how you say,
Pushing,
pushing in this
promoting.
direction. But yeah, I think composition, every improvisation is for everyone. Everyone, I mean, everybody is already doing it, but he doesn't know. She doesn't know.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah. So let's put more effort, guys, into bringing new music of that sort. Maybe before the break, Christos, I would like to ask you. Now, we touched on it a bit, but just to finalize this idea, you have been exposed to many learning styles and you have seen many masters. As you said, you have attended seminars in person, online, you are teaching, and so on. What are those effective things that will make people learn better? Right, what are the things in general that makes the learning experience a better experience that would lead to musicianship? You said focus, you said love. I remember, what else? I mean, what
Uh,
is it that makes it work?
yes, just to make sure I understand your question. When you say learn better, what do you mean? I mean, what? mm, if you put, let's suppose you are a student. I'm a student also,
Mhm.
right? And
Yeah,
what is your goal? What do you want to do? Because if you tell me what you want to do, I can maybe give a hint of the process of what will help you. But what does a
yeah,
student want to do? That's my question.
exactly. So you start from the objective. What is the student's objective and goal?
Yes, of
And
course.
from there, because the way you told your story, coming from the first land, then jumping to a new land, emigrating, and you have seen all these kinds of masters and musics and learning experiences. There are certain elements that improve the learning process. It took you to a place where you mastered maybe
Yeah.
maqams,
Yes.
rhythms, instruments, feeling, expression, composition, and so on. So,
Mm.
what are those things that are there in these experiences? You
Yes.
said focus, focus,
I think
focus.
I understand your question.
Yeah.
I'm slightly playing with it,
Mm,
reshifting it. So, in what way? When we are
mm,
talking about a learning process, we are not, as I said before, we are not sure about exactly what the person wants to do. And let me clarify this.
yeah.
For me, it's important to have an imaginary of what I'm asking from myself and from the music.
Hmm.
So it's another thing to say that I want to do this, like when I was 7 years old. I had the sensation I want to do this. It's not like I, I um, I'm interested in what he's doing, or it's this thing that I want to do this. You know, it's like almost being jealous. You know,
Hmm.
if you have this aspiration of doing music in your life and being a musician, doing it, I don't know, full time or not, professional or not. For me, this is not
Hmm.
important. But if you want to do this, then I don't know.
Mm,
This is one thing. You will do what you have to do in order to do this, and
mm,
then we can speak about the learning process
mhm.
in the sense that for, it seems like a simple question, but it's not.
Yeah, it's not actually. And
Yeah,
the
but
irony,
let's
Christus,
let's separate the irony.
the
Yeah, but
irony
let's
is that students, they don't know what they want sometimes, and they
yeah,
go on a very good path.
yes.
See,
But let me differentiate, because this situation where you really want to be one with the music, like you really want to do it, and
yeah,
another case where you're interested and you say, okay, I'm interested in jazz, or I'm interested in blues, or I'm interested in Turkish makam, or I'm interested in Iranian music, and I want to learn some things. In
yeah,
this second place,
mm,
and then I will talk about the other thing, is that you will not, I mean, you will do some things, you will give some time, you will do some things from what the teacher says or whatever, but it will be a bit
mm,
superficial, let's say, approach.
mhm,
uh, I'm not
yeah,
saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's bad. And maybe for somebody that really, like I'd say, go deep in the music, she can, learning some things about whatever style of music or playing whatever music will give him something.
mhm,
But about the first case, if somebody that plays music really wants to, also this imaginary I was talking about, to perform it. If you're not
mhm,
performing music, if you're not playing the music, I don't care if it's in a big concert hall or for friends or for your family or whatever, or just for yourself.
mhm,
When you perform music, you cannot be like, you cannot have a doubt.
mm, mhm,
For me, that was very apparent. I was some years ago when I saw a Kim Kaskashian concert.
mm,
She's a great violin player and viola. It was a solo
mhm,
concert, and it
yeah,
was like, I'm like this now. it was impressive. It was like staggering because she had no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
She was
Mm.
entire, she was whole when she was playing. There was no doubt, or at least we could not understand it.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to get to this point of having no doubt, and you know you what you say in American, you have to know your shit very well.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not about knowing only the music very well. You have to know yourself also very well, in the sense that
Yeah.
you have to. I mean, it's you and the instrument, it's you and the voice, it's you and the name. So you cannot expect to know the instrument in a way that. What happens if suddenly you have a uh, your belly is for wind players. Our diaphragm is a very important feature. If your diaphragm is stressed and it's like like that,
Yeah.
it will happen. The first years I played exams in my conservatory, my teacher was saying, "What, you're trembling like a fish." I was like this.
Mm.
I was trying to play, and my body was like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. How are you supposed to play like that? So
Mm.
you ask about the learning process, but the learning process has to do with many things. It's not only the class. It's like doing the
Mm.
music, like performing it, playing it with people, listening a lot, and like doing it so 360 degrees,
Mm-hmm.
where you don't feel you know it all, because we'll never know it all. And every time also you learn more things, you become aware that so how many things you don't know. But at least this personal connection of you and the music
Mm.
can be direct and sincere.
Mm-hmm.
And to this, I would add this: it's not so difficult to do.
Mm.
Yesterday, I had an online class with an A student, and he told me, Christos, we're studying for some time now, and we didn't study Taksim still,
Mm.
Taksim improvisation.
Yeah.
He's a very nice guy, and he's like doing his homework, We're playing this piece, and the next week he will have studied it, and he's nice.
Mm.
And so within Taksim, I was not aware because I don't follow a predetermined track in teaching. It's like whatever comes up, whatever I feel the student needs every time. And she told me maybe we can. I said, of course, yeah. But can I ask you something? Do you improvise? Do you improvise for yourself? He says no, because I don't have imagination, and when I start, it's like. And okay, improvisation and Taksim can be approached from many, again, sides. It's like it's here and all around. You can listen and you can transcribe and you can play with people. But for me, if you don't play when you are home alone with the lights shut, I don't know what is a soul, but play for you, play for your own self, because you want it, because you need it, because you enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Then why go further? I mean, why study it in an external level or with people if you don't do it for yourself?
Yes.
And for me, this is so simple and so direct that it's not difficult. It's not I have to play well or I have to play to like what I play. It doesn't have to do with this. It has to do with playing whatever you can at a specific given moment, because
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow you will know more or less,
Yes.
or you will be out
Mm.
of training. Your fingers, you will feel shit. But anyway, at some point where during, not in the 2026, these days, these weeks, this today or tomorrow,
Mm.
if you don't play music without thinking anything like
Mm-hmm.
I'm playing for that or for the other, just with your sound, enjoy your sound, play. I mean,
Mm.
enjoy the fact that you are, what can I say? Still alive, just you're here.
Yes.
Shut at everything
Mm.
and play music for yourself. For me, this is the
Interesting.
beginning. There is no
Mm.
learning. I mean, there is nothing more important that you can learn apart, except from this. I mean, I don't know if I said
Mm-hmm.
it well. We can learn many things from everyone. we can
Yeah.
learn from everyone if we want to learn, if we are listening, even from
Mm-hmm.
the most let's say untalented person that maybe doesn't exist, but you can, if you listen, you can understand things about him and about her.
Mm.
But there is no lesson that we can learn that is so important as playing, just connecting with the music in this personal level. If we don't have this,
Mm.
then everything else will not work, because we will always ask for the answers from other people.
Mm.
What's
Interesting.
correct? And should I do this? And is this Arabic? Is this Turkish? Is this Greek? Like, what is,
Interesting.
how do you connect with your sound? How do you listen to the note that you produce?
Mm.
Do you listen? Are you listening? Or are you just playing?
Mm-hmm.
When you're listening, how much space is, oh, sorry, when you're playing with other people, or how much space is there for you to listen the other persons and yourself?
Mm.
Are other people like the 20% and you're 80?
Mm.
Or are you 35 maybe and you are like a whole with HOLE, a whole,
Mm-hmm.
you are empty and you're just perceiving what's happening, and you yourself is just a part of what's happening. I'm not saying
Mm.
we should be that. Maybe it's fluctuating, maybe it's changing over time, and maybe it should be something that is vibrating. But all
Mm.
these are questions, I think, that somebody, when really he is into the experience of doing music, these are questions that are arise, and it's so not so difficult, I mean, I've met people that are not professionals and they have this kind of sensitivity, and they listen and they are playing, and
Mm.
a group is created, you know
Mm.
and sometimes we play with people and it's like, I play this and I'm okay, and or whatever, I'm just by myself, and it's, I mean, yeah, you can do that, but it's not about separating, it's about
Uniting.
mixing, it's this alchemy
Mm.
of, wow, the sounds come from different pot, and then there is no separation. It's like, uh, this is what it sounds, and what do you do there? So yeah, I don't know, maybe we went off track here, but
Interesting. No,
uh,
no. Actually, I like it. Really interesting. Very interesting. I think we are due for a break now. Maybe
sure, I
pick
don't know
us
what the time.
another piece and tell us about it, and then we can continue our
Okay,
discussion.
so I thought about listening to another interest of mine, as also I think we have touched on this issue, is big forms.
Mm.
The Ayin, I mean, maybe it's one of the biggest forms
Yeah.
you can work in this music, but before that, like, I think these two pieces were composed in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's an introduction which is called Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it is a relatively simple idea I had about creating, like, let's say, a background of noises, of sounds, of notes that would
Mm-hmm.
accompany an improvisation again. So
Mm-hmm.
there you have this combination of structure and freedom, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
The idea was very simple. It was like that the voices are chasing themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So one voice is chasing the other. So you have a three beat, like one, two, three, don't, two, and you have three voices,
Mm-hmm.
and each voice is occupying a space of two.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think one, two, three, the first voice is playing. I don't remember what's the first voice or the second voice. It's not important, but
Mm-hmm.
one voice is making one, two, pause. One, two, one, two. Hmm? The
Mm-hmm.
second voice is doing two, three, two, three. So this voice is concentrated only on the two, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one, two, and two, three. The third voice, what will do if it
Mm-hmm.
wants to be complementary? You tell me.
Yeah, we will use. We will hit into the one to meet with the
Exactly.
first voice. Yeah.
Exactly. Head into the one and start with the three. So the third voice will
Mm.
do 3-1, 3-1,
Hmm.
3-1. So you have a kind of fuga. No, it's not
Yeah.
fuga, but one. It's actually fuga because Chase is the name of fuga.
You are carrying the luggage to your immigrated place.
Yes,
Basically, you are
exactly.
not
So,
throwing anything.
so actually, there's a nice song by Dionysis Avopoulos, this
Yeah.
important like songwriter in Greek, that he says he has a CD that says "Μην πετάξεις τίποτα," don't throw anything away. Um, so this is like, and then again, this is an accompaniment.
Mm,
Accompaniment. Yeah? It's just a background. It's just a context. And
mm,
my good friend Yorgos Papaioannou on the violin played this. I told him, "You play this," and then he
mhm.
made an improvisation on the cello on that.
Yes. Mm,
Angeles is the name because at that point, my well, she was a good friend of mine and a woman that passed away, so it was
mm,
dedicated to her.
mm,
The mother of a good friend of mine,
mm,
and I mean the name also is Angel, so it carries this feeling.
mhm,
And then the song after that, this is like I think 3-4 minutes, five, and after this comes the song.
mm,
And this song, actually, the lyrics is by my friend, but Aina Sanchez Coso, and the lyrics are in Spanish. So it was like uh, just experimenting with new languages. I mean, Spanish is not so
mm,
new language for this music because you have the Sephardic repertory and Jewish people that the
mm,
Sephardic, the Sephardics that did this combination of Macam and Ladino. But as I said before, in being interested in bigger forms, I kind of improvised and worked on this composition so that it has have a big form, but at the same time a strophic form where you have a refrain that is appearing again. So all
mm,
this thing, if I'm not mistaken, is it's around 10 minutes. And the interest in
mm,
the big forms is how you can maintain the interest, but at the same time, um, don't have always new ideas, no?
mhm.
So yeah, so this is Angeles and then Ea. They're supposed to be like together.
Together. We'll listen to them then.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Christos, let's flip the coin and talk about teaching.
Mhm.
We talked about learning. Let's talk about teaching and your way of teaching.
Right. Um, so teaching is something that I did uh, rather from an early point. Even in I think the first classes I did was in the when I was studying the conservatory. So I did a small class of music theory for actually for very young children. It was not a good experience. They were too. I think from an early point I didn't feel like teaching like to very very young children. It was at this point it was a kind of why don't you just sit and listen? You know, it was more a job of policing.
Mm,
Um, and also I did some private lessons with children of friends or with my cousin or things like that. But I think I started to teach more, let's say, systematically, and it felt like it was okay. It was my thing. It was felt more like
mm,
comfortably to teach the name. Actually, I think
mm,
is the thing the subject I most taught, and actually teaching was a big help for me to learn the name also.
mhm,
And I started fairly early.
mm,
As I said, I first started music lessons of the name as a student 2000.
mm,
And if I remember correctly, just after the first years of studying with Omer, 2003 to 2004, or five, more or less, I
mm,
started teaching. I think the first NA classes I taught were in this association of Byzantine music by
mm,
Panagiotis Nechoritis. The Romanos Melodos is the name. And if I remember correctly, Marcos was out of town, so I started teaching. I mean, it was relatively soon playing the ney, but on the other part, I had already an experience of playing like 12 years the recorder, so I was a wind player, let's say, so I had
mm,
the technique for breathing, etc. And maybe I was not maybe I was sure I was not like an accomplished ney player. I could not say that. In Turkey, I think you're supposed to be called neyzen after you play 10 years, if I
mm,
remember correctly. So I didn't have that much experience, but I could help people that were children or people that were just
mhm,
starting. No? And I say I was helped because many people will say that teaching actually is the best way of learning. You
mhm,
really you really have to understand what other person needs. You understand your own insufficiencies, let's say. Sometimes it's a good place to practice also, even though of course the priority is not of course you, but it
mm,
keeps you in touch with the subject. It's another thing if you just learn the name, and it's another thing if you're learning in the process of helping other people also learn it.
mhm,
um so this give and take, it's very important. I mean, and you know, sometimes also they say that when you give, also you receive. You know, when you help somebody, are also helped, and this is very.
mm,
I think many teachers can it
mhm.
helps you like to organize the subject, to know about more
Problem
subject.
solve, problem solve for others,
For sure, yeah, and
rethink.
for sure, absolutely, and you have to be
Interesting.
inventive because every time the student can be different. You know, a different age, from different environment with different background of different part of the world.
Mm,
Especially
mm,
nowadays that I'm teaching also online. You know, this is the, let's say, the problem of distance also. No, so you have really to be
mm,
inventive to pass something to the student that will help and hopefully inspire her
mm,
to do it, not feel I'm alone here in Germany or I'm alone here in the United States and I have no one to play, but you want to do it, no, you asked for it. So
yes.
how to do it, so it's a good training, let's say. And I like teaching in the sense that searching, as we said before, this way of making it something that is also pleasurable for the teacher.
Mm,
I don't think that we, as teacher, we should feel guilty that I'm doing this for me and not for. No, you're doing it for music. Music should be there, you know. So if
mm,
the class is boring, nobody is going to be helped. If you just
mm,
tell to the student do ta ra 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 ra, and you're doing in a bored way, then yeah, I mean,
mhm,
bad for you, you know.
mhm.
But if you hopefully find a way of making repetition be magical, or giving the right balance of mental information and musical
Experience.
information or musicality,
Mm,
then it's good. It's great. I mean, it's nice
mhm,
that music happens in the class. That it's not just sometimes maybe it will be blah blah blah. But
mhm.
I and as you see, I have the tendency of sometimes talking too much.
No, no,
uh,
this is an interview to talk.
yes, well, yeah,
I'm
that's
sure
true. I'm
teaching is
more
something
used to
else.
I'm more used to playing.
Yeah.
But I think this is no, seriously, this is something as me as a teacher, I try to have in mind, because sometimes students are like this from the intellectual information from the of the mind,
Mm,
and it's really important to give also music, to because through music you're inspired. You're not in okay. Words can be inspiring, but music is more inspiring.
exactly. And some of them, they get used to reading books or going online for information or
Yeah.
getting confused with too many things. They miss it. They miss the objective of music itself, isn't it?
Yeah, and it can depend on the personality and the character of the person. Some people can use the information, the explanations or even theory, and they
Mm,
know where to put them, and they know then how to take the music forward.
yeah.
Some other people are like, oh, Christos, this is too much. I can't follow. I mean, not
Mm,
I can't follow, but they have their way. So you really have to be
mm,
sensible and sensitive with the musician and to the person, and understand what will help her.
mm,
And we sometimes it's a matter of relational, so it doesn't always work. Sometimes it just doesn't work. So
mm,
maybe you're not the right teacher. So
mm.
yeah.
What do you teach, Christos? Do you teach technique? Do you teach pieces? You do a combination of things? What's your approach?
On the nay.
And yeah, and person, like now many kinds of musics we talked about.
Huh.
What do you teach exactly? Music, instrument, for the online or in-person
I
sessions?
mean, okay,
Mm,
I teach more things than only nay. I mean,
mm,
occasionally, for example, last August, I did a seminar in composition in Labyrinth, as we've
yeah.
met.
Hmm.
Sometimes the classes next Labyrinth seminar is on a model group, so it's open.
Mm,
It's all instruments are welcome. Um, and or at sometimes I like this open approach. So sometimes
mm,
I will do this Nay Cafe meeting, which maybe does I'm not sure. I always wonder if somebody will think it's not respectful for the Nay to say Nay Cafe, but for me it's some I'm not sure. But for me the
yeah.
intention is very sincere, just to have a coffee. Sorry about
Yes. Yeah.
and at the same time talk or make music in a way that in an informal way where people can share their questions or answers or doubts about music, and we just play. Usually we study actually a piece or
Hmm.
make a composition exercise or whatever. So generally, I like to have an open mind and not to say you
Mm,
must learn this. Actually, it is what I enjoy also in the being n- not being in an academic institution. As
mm,
you may have um, uh, understood, I don't like so much to follow a certain program of by the end of the year you must have learned this and this is your the pieces. And this is one of the reasons also I think I exited in a bit, modest way from academy. I was teaching for 4 or 5 years in some universities in Greece, and it was very nice. But for me, it didn't feel at that moment that it was that I can commit myself to this. So I prefer to more to try to understand what the student wants and needs, or
Mhm.
what I can do to help her or him, like open to understand. Huh? And so, for example, when I will teach the ney, because the instrument is
Mhm.
uh, on one part it's a concrete instrument, and the other part it is a carrier of how do you call this, life,
Mhm.
culture, history, sounds.
Yes, yes,
This
yes.
instrument that I teach, I mostly teach the Turkish type, has
Mhm.
its basis repertory, let's say. So I try to start from there. I think it does justice to the instrument to know
Mhm.
about, Pesref and ilahis and semais and songs. So I think it gives you a good idea of also of what the sound of the instrument can
Mhm.
sound like. Because I mean, then when you go out and play, I mean, I think you should have your maybe your own sound or whatever you want, but it's a good practice to actually open the sound through this repertory, and try to have this boat like big sound, and then you can uh, go your own way and choose them what you want, no? But many times I talk about it with in relation with the piano as back. You can play what you want with the piano. You can play uh, free impro or jazz or classical repertory, or in the keyboard maybe, you know on the harpsichord you want to play other repertory, but Bach is like, even if the piano didn't exist in the time of Bach as we know it, but the mechanics of the fingers and everything that comes from this repertory and the compositions of Bach are, I mean, if you play piano and you've never played Bach, it's like you're missing something very, very important about the way things work in the fingers and, of course, in the
Yeah.
music. So,
Mhm.
in this sense, if you didn't play Salida De when you play Ney, it's like, okay, what are you doing? I mean, for the Turkish Ney at least, I don't know what's happening in the
Yeah.
Iranian or in the Arabic. It's a bit same instrument, different words and different instrument as well, different sound.
Mhm.
So yeah, at some,
Interesting.
I don't necessarily start by there, but for sure in the early stages it will be there. And then some students want more variety. They like more to go like, to some Greek traditional music or even some newer compositions. Or some students sometimes ask for me, hey, I'm playing with this group right now. Could we take this piece? And I say, okay, yes, or maybe not.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's like too cheesy. But even if in the cheesy pieces, I try to, for example, look at some technical things that will help the student to play it, and they will say, okay, let's not study this with me, you can study it by yourself. Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, I take it from class to class actually, and see what the how the sound, how it sounds like, and the fingering. And sometimes we'll spend actually a whole
Mhm.
class talking about how one finger moves or how it's related with our posture.
Mhm.
um, and as you might know, because you're a musician yourself, our
Mhm.
bodies, I mean, it's our instrument, no? It's the instrument which we play our instrument.
Yeah.
So since always, breathing and and finger position and the hands and everything is important to all musicians. But especially the last years when, as you know, from my partner, that she's a Jennifer, she's a Feldenkrais practitioner, and I practice with
Mhm.
her occasionally, and it's a very good. I mean, it gives some more, let's say, um, input and insight how the person can be helped by, for example, Can I take the name to show you something?
Yeah, please, please.
Uh, um, so, for example, sometimes people will play like this, no?
Yeah.
Like with this position. Well,
Mm-hmm.
it has to do with ergonomy. I mean, ergonomy and is a is a concept that is super important.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, how do you call this Japanese woman that makes this? How to double your clothes to have the perfect space in nothing to do with
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
But it is in a sense economy, like how with the least effort you can have the best result.
Efficiency. Yeah.
Efficiency, it's about how to
Mm.
organize and how what strategies to have with your body in order not to have injury,
Mm-hmm.
and how to have also uh, to be able to play a long time without getting tired.
Yes, yes.
Um,
Mm.
so, for example, this position in the knee is something that you do a lot of movement in order
Mm.
to raise your finger. Because
Yeah,
if you see, I'm using all, if you see here,
yeah.
these articulations, I mean, the finger has one, two, three articulations here, and they can all move
Mm.
at the same time. So it's a lot of information. So, what specific time is the finger uh, taking, let's say, flight? It's
Yeah.
difficult to say. So, for example, a simple thing we do is like to treat the finger as one whole, not in the sense
Mm.
of something that is rigid or you can't move it, but something that maybe in this finger is more evident from here.
Yeah.
Instead
Yes.
of doing this, I mean, you can do this if you want later on in order to create this kind of glissando, like,
Mm.
um, huh? But
Mm-hmm.
let's say this, if you have this articulation mainly moving, is more efficient, more easy, and it can be
Mm-hmm.
very fast without effort. While this,
Yes.
oh, it's like wow. So, for example,
Not
we can wake
consistent,
up.
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
people will play like this, and after some time, if we work for 1 hour, for example, we will do this, and their sound is totally changing. Not
Yeah.
only because of here, but because what you do here, it affects also uh,
Lips.
the lips.
Mm.
And actually, something I learned through Feldenkrais, and I was kind of intuitively knew it before, is that when you use well one part of your body and you relax one part of the body, because the nervous system is something that is connected in the body, the nervous system is not,
Mm.
disconnected. Actually, it helps you relax the whole body.
Mm.
And if there is a tension here, for example, in the neck, it affects the diaphragm also. But if you
Mm.
relax the neck, then
Mm.
it feels more comfortable. So we do all
Mm.
these things, so crazy stuff in the classes.
Wow.
Just
Interesting.
it's
Mm.
related to what we were saying before.
Mm.
When you play music for yourself, first of all,
Mm.
I don't mean it with egoistical part of for myself, but no, when you're you and the music, you
Mm.
cannot really be. You must be comfortable. You must be like at home. Just having coffee with a good friend of yours. Hello,
Mm.
Fadil. Welcome today. How are you? What's wrong with Christos? You cannot be like this. When you are your friend,
Yeah.
you just relaxed and having a good time. It's like this is also I think the way we should play the instrument, like with a sense of ease and a sense of
Mm.
I know you. You're not my enemy. You're
Mm.
the instrument should not be a foreign body in our, and so that sounds simple, but sometimes it's well
It's the core of it. It's the core of it. Interesting.
it takes
Interesting.
some, but again, it has to do with the person every time, of the awareness of the person, of the optical information about the character. It's like
Mm.
Ross, our teacher and our good friend, says it in a very precise, and as usually as Ross talks, he says that actually the way you play music is what you bring from your life. It's all this. So
Mhm.
uh,
It's a reflection of you.
it's a
Yeah,
reflection, and I'm saying it
mm,
not to say that in my classes I work with a life of person. No, it's not about this. But what I meant to say is that the way we hold the instrument and we is a reflection of how we relate to things.
yeah,
It's not easy. I mean, it's not easy. It's not difficult either. But yeah, this is all the things we work when when we work with music.
interesting.
Mm.
Interesting. I really encourage students to come to your classes. I have seen and I have met you, and I have seen people talking about your classes. And later we will discuss how people can reach out to your classes. But let's discuss Labyrinth Catalonia.
Right.
Yeah, tell me about it, how it started. What do you do in there? Yeah.
Labyrinth Catalina started at the same time. It was summer of 69. No, it was the summer of 2015,
Hmm.
and I was packing up. I was preparing for a move to Spain. I was
Hmm.
just moving from Crete when I was living at that point. I was living
Hmm.
for 3.5 years in Crete near Hudetsi,
Hmm.
where Labyrinth Musical Workshop and the museum are there.
Hmm.
And my plans were to move to Cardedeu, which is a
Hmm.
village, a small town north from Barcelona, 30 kilometers
Yes.
away from Barcelona.
Hmm.
And Ana Pont Correas, this friend of ours and a student of Labyrinth, also in Crete,
Hmm.
I mean, primarily in Crete, is from Cardedeu, and she was the connection, actually, one of the connections why I moved to Cardedeu. And at that point we were talking, and I think the idea sprang from her. I'm not really, I don't really remember, but we were talking about, I mean, sorry, let's make a parenthesis. Already for some 6 years before 2015,
Hmm.
um, me and the friend Lopez were already coming in this region near Montseny, which is the mountain
Hmm.
which is near Cardedeu, and giving some seminars about Ney
Hmm.
or Macam music or things related things.
Yeah.
Um, we did mention this because, but I was coming to Spain since after Granada, since 2004, 2005, with a friend
Hmm.
playing with various bands like Lambda Folk and Aman Aman and other
Hmm.
projects of mainly of a friend. And so I was a kind of getting every time more comfortable and in feeling at home in
Hmm.
in place in Spain. Uh, Especially many other people, I think, but especially a friend, by his teaching, his playing, he was kind of promoting at the same time in a natural way.
Hmm.
No, take the card
Hmm.
of the work that's happening in Labyrinth and all the
Hmm.
interest of people. Actually, people that if you're in Spain and you are interested or studying or listening in some way, like musics from Greece or Turkey or Middle East or Afghanistan, India, or whatever, the most probable thing is that you will have heard of Labyrinth, especially now after 20 years of
Hmm.
the annual seminars in Crete, because Ross, with his work, as you know, it goes back to 83, like 40 years before.
Yeah.
So anyway, so when I moved here to live here, there was this idea. Okay, you're already doing these seminars and things with a friend. Why don't we make a like more permanent thing, like a permanent or organized in the sense to make 3 or 4 or 5 seminars and invite people from. And so when I came here in Spain, we started it in 2016. That was the first spring edition.
Mm.
And the idea was actually very simple, just to do what's happening in Crete, like to take this, as we said before, this opportunity to study and and share music and
mm,
and share 1 week of being together with people that have the same
mhm,
interest. Uh, Also in another place that is not Crete.
mm.
It was not like there was a problem in Crete or something, but
Yeah.
it was like actually the first thing, obviously, I did when this idea sprang is talk with Ross and the people in the musical workshop there
Mm,
and share this idea and see what their feedback was. You know? And they were
mm,
very positive in the sense that, I mean, the goal is to share this music and to make it also get to as many people as possible.
mhm,
So it sounded like a good idea to, um, I mean, in Crete you have the seminars during the whole summer. You have like more or less 10 weeks of
mm,
intense music
mhm,
learning. And what we did in here in Catalonia was to create a 1 or 2 or 3 weeks sometimes edition. Now I think
mm.
the 2 weeks model is serving us
Mm.
more. It makes
Yeah.
more sense. Like 3 weeks is too much. 1 week is a bit too little in the sense that we're preparing a whole year just for a week and then it's over and it's like, hey, what? Don't go. You know, we
Mhm,
want to stay a bit more. And yeah, the idea was just to create more, let's say, places, meeting points during the year also, but also
mm.
in in the inside the globe. I mean,
Yeah.
around the globe, and it became very soon obvious that it was not just an let's say a wish of us here in Spain to do that. And very soon, after some months actually, or some years in other places, more initiatives like that sprang from Pepe Frane in Labyrinth in Italy,
Mm,
from various persons like Christina Policarpo and Stefania and Evros Dikeos in Cyprus, from Maras Alek and Pedram Kavarzemi in Canada. That I think was the first, and then you have more labyrinths springing out in
mm,
Turkey and now recently just in the Belgium as well.
mm.
So so yeah, and it's yeah.
Thing. Let's maybe shed some light about the 3 week seminar that has composition, recording, and publishing. That was
Right.
really a great idea. Let's maybe mention this.
Okay, this idea
Mm.
came originally from Michiel van der Meulen. Michiel,
Yes.
uh, a good friend and a very good composer of modal music and a very good geologist,
Mhm, mhm.
a
Yeah.
world-class geologist. um, so yeah, he's uh, taking the composition seminars with Ross for I think more than a decade now.
Mm,
And so and he composes modal music and also recorded by him. I mean, before doing the
mhm,
seminar, he I think he has 3 CDs where he
mm.
records his own music with musicians that have been around in Labyrinth. So he goes to Athens or Crete and records, or I think he's doing recordings in the Netherlands as well.
Yeah.
And so he threw this idea of why not make this composition seminar in combination with a seminar where after you will prepare the piece you composed in order to record it. So 1, 2, 3. And
Mm,
everybody liked the idea, and Ross said, okay, let's do it.
mm, mm,
And so we did it. The first time we did it was last August, 2023,
mhm.
and it worked nice. It was like also it was the first time we did it, so it's kind of nobody knew exactly what's going to happen. I was
Mm.
present actually the first week because I taught the seminar of composition, and then Pavlos Spiropoulos came and orchestrated the second week, and Vangelis Apostolou was there, the sound engineer, the third week. So also me, I have a partial, let's say, experience of the whole 3 weeks because I was not there during the
Hmm.
last 14 days. Maybe in the future it would make sense also to for people to be present, if not the whole 3 weeks, to kind of being around. And but also like this, it worked very nice. People were
Hmm.
happy. The recorded the results were very very nice,
Hmm.
and yeah, it makes sense also in this in the from the aspect that we're talking about, that making music and also listening to it. You know, for me, this is like
Yeah.
I mean, just writing music and just putting it in the in the shelf or whatever, for me it doesn't. I mean, sometimes it might happen, but it's a great chance, just to do something. So why not do it? I mean, I
Krista.
mean, if you are attracted to it, you should do it. Like imagining music and then hear it alive and then have it. It's. I mean, it's great. I mean, it's very inspiring. It's
That's
a
the whole purpose of making a music and sharing it.
yes, yes. I
Yes.
mean, for sure, a
Mm.
very very big part of it. Yeah.
Interesting. Christos, we can have a whole discussion about your compositions, your approach to composition, but let's maybe give a summary about this part. We discussed a bit. Let's talk about composition from your perspective. Yeah,
Oh.
a
um,
little bit. Yeah.
um, I don't think I have a fixed. I think so. I don't think I have a fixed idea about what this composition is for me or what's supposed to be.
Mm,
Um, I think it's just an open space for discovering.
mhm,
I want to say new things, but I don't really mean like new things in the sense that something that was not heard before, something like that. But new in the sense that it makes sense and it's meaningful at the time you make it,
mhm,
if that makes sense. So
mhm,
I'm not aspiring, for example, for me, for the composition to be something innovative or something that was never done before, but to be fresh in a way, like to feel that it's a combination of sounds and ideas
mhm,
that are connected to some idea also, and not
mhm,
necessarily an idea that's I have this idea of the idea not with a mental form of some a phrase or something,
mhm,
but something that is related with a content, if I can call it like that.
mhm.
Mm.
Yeah.
So I was reading the other day something about Tarkovsky, Andrei Tarkovsky, which is, in my opinion, is one of the greatest, like, not only my opinion, of course, but greatest
Mhm,
creators and artists of, if not the 20th century,
mhm,
even more. Uh, and people were, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was like the realization of Andrei Tarkovsky's, like, ideas. It's amazing, the films,
mhm,
but what he's also, his message, let's say, I mean, what he wants to communicate is, I think actually Ingard Bergman was saying that, but
mhm,
his ideas also are even more amazing. You know,
mhm.
if you
Yeah.
read, I don't know if you read this, the book of he wrote, Sculpting Time.
Mhm.
Uh, it has some very profound, like, um,
Concepts.
yeah, concepts
Yeah.
and, um, like, let's say, thoughts and, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, he was a very, I think, spiritual and religious person, and I
Mhm,
don't want to say that all art or all music obviously has to have this kind of starting
mhm.
point.
Yeah.
Anyway, as a when we're talking about a composition or it's a rearrangement of possibilities, no?
Yeah.
Uh, um, it is for me. It's a bit also like a bit of mathematics in a way. I think we talked about one of the times we
Yeah.
were talking about before that.
Yeah.
Okay, with specific elements that you have at a certain point in your table, no?
Hmm.
You choose them, or sometimes they just happen to be there.
Hmm.
What can you make of it? What can you make of it that would taste hopefully well? It's a bit like cooking.
Hmm.
You enter in the cuisine. Sometimes you've bought everything, but sometimes you just have to cook with what you have in the cuisine. So how can you be inventive with that? How can it maybe not repeat what you did before? Not in the
Hmm.
sense that this idea about innovation. It's very coming a lot from Western, a bit consumism, also capitalism.
Yes.
There goes our political statement. I mean,
Yeah.
no, it's interesting actually to think. I have this cousin. She's teaching Greek language, and she's an archaeologist actually, Nena. And she was saying that, and through her I found out that the word innovation actually,
Mm.
I don't know if it was like 100 or a few years ago, or maybe I'm mistaken, but people can look it up,
Mm.
was not connected with something really positive.
Hmm.
Innovative or innovation was supposed something that was a bit, as a word, as the meaning of the
Yeah.
word,
Yeah.
was something that was lacking connection with the past, and was a bit like, uh, fake or something.
Yeah. It's
Today
like not connected to the authenticity or originality, right?
yes, but the way that the word was, now I don't remember exactly, but it was connected with some charlatans, if I'm not
Ah.
mistaken. Yeah. So
Mm.
the fact that nowadays innovation, you listen to innovation and you think of Tesla, and you're thinking of innovating, just throw everything away and just this is buy this, just forget your old iPhone. The new one is the better. I
Yeah.
mean, I think that we should be really careful how where we what we think, how we think, and how we express ourselves in in relation,
Mm.
okay, we have this kind of stereotype, jazz is the innovation of the days, and Turkish classical music is to put in the to wardrobe, no, or whatever, just throw it in the trash,
Museum.
yeah. I mean, there are many things to say for sure about this, but
Mm.
what I want to say is this: it's like it depends on the things that you're treating with, what elements you choose to use, and sometimes these elements have to do also with what where do you take your influences, where do you draw your inspiration from, and with
Mm.
what groups of people are you connected with, or you would
Mm.
like to be connected with, and where
Hmm.
do you draw your ideas from, it's like, or what landscape
Yeah.
is in your
Mm.
mind. Are you living in Catalonia, or in Saudi Arabia, or in Norway, or in Brooklyn, so it's kind
Mm.
of, or nowadays maybe all these things at the same time,
Mm.
or
Interesting.
not. And in the
Mm.
end, when you enter your cuisine and you take these things and you cook something, is it eatable? I'm not a fan of this consumist, that music should sound always um, easy, or just, but sometimes music can be provocative, or sometimes
Yeah.
music can be really introvertive or extrovertive. I don't know how it
Yeah.
should sound. I suppose that,
Mm.
but it's a very nice, um, serious game.
Yeah. I
It's a
like
game.
that.
It should be playful. I mean, I think it's nice to sometimes
Mm.
playful, and sometimes it gets, depending on your mood, it
Mm.
can it can drive you to other places.
Mm.
Uh, that yeah, they give you a chance that you can, you know, um, I wouldn't say express the order that you feel in the world, but maybe it's not a good way to put it, because I don't know if yeah, you're expressing something, but at the same time you are a participant in something, because
Yeah, yeah.
you're taking elements that are not yours and you
Mm.
rearrange them in a way that they
Yeah,
seem
yeah.
like they're yours. It seems like the composition is mine, but you know, who am I? I mean, it's a kind of, we are social animals, no?
Mm.
Like Aristotle
I
said.
got you.
So it's
Mm.
a kind of very interesting journey of maybe learning, hopefully. I'm not sure, but also enjoying, because it's very joyful. You know, it's
Yeah,
uh,
interesting.
yeah, all these things.
Interesting. I think we can go in more details in another episode about composition.
Sure.
Yeah, but for now, just highlight to the audience about your projects, activities, recordings.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
difficult.
a little bit, like maybe recent ones, if you
Mm,
like.
for sure.
Mm, mm,
Project and recording. So, the most recent recording, I guess, on a more personal project is the duet album with with Efren
mhm.
Lopez, the Atlas.
Yeah.
Uh, and we enjoyed a lot this recording. It came after many years of playing together in a more, let's say,
Mm,
unofficial level, because we always did duet concert, but they were, let's say, at the side of or inside Labyrinth,
mm,
or after some other concerts we make or whatever. No, but as we share so much repertory and interest and different genres, we have played together from Iranian, Afghanistan, Bulgarian, Greek, Turkish, I mean Spanish,
mhm,
medieval, Sepharad. I could continue on.
mhm,
But at some point, uh, both of us were, I think, were also going in the direction of, I wouldn't say distancing from self from some specific styles, but I would say caring about a lot about improvisation and about attentive listening
mm,
of how the music can be heard at this moment, and not necessarily connected with, let's say, classical or traditional style. In Even if we we have played the music in a traditional style, we can play it. We kind of wanted to open up. I think wanted, and I say that. I think
mm,
parallelly we are,
mm,
you know, it's about seeing in how many, in how different can the music sound, again, not just to make it sound different, but because you feel like it's natural thing to do. So the recording of this, if I spend so much time talking about its recording, it will be January. Anyway, uh no, because it's connected to what we were saying before. So the
Yeah,
invitation came actually from Constantino Lopez, a good friend of ours and a sound engineer and musician,
yeah,
and that was creating these recordings that he wanted to make live recordings without overdubs,
yeah,
without let's say too much like composed, like putting focus on the live interplay and interaction of musicians. So it felt just
mm,
right to make it
mm,
at this point with Costadino, and so we did it, and it was a good, it was a very good experience for us, because we felt that our music and our relation also grew
mm,
through this process. And now we are preparing the a second album, uh,
mm,
Atlas 2. This one,
mm,
this is one thing we're doing. Actually, I'm doing many things at the same right now, so it would be a bit.
mhm,
Um, another thing I'm doing now in Barcelona is trying a bit to have more, let's say, roots and play with more musicians that are nearby, because as
mm,
you may know, I mean, coming from Greece and then Crete and traveling around, you I and other persons were used to playing like musicians with all over Europe and the world. So uh,
mhm,
sometimes it can get a bit
Hmm.
you're always traveling, which is great. I mean, but at the
Hmm.
same time, with the pandemic, you understand that, and living in a place, it's good to, I mean, to have musicians around and play. So one
Perfect.
of the last things, the last concert I did was with a quartet um, here in Barcelona with Alex Guitart on the lafta, Georgi Dimitrov on
Mm.
the qanun, and Nabil Nair on the ney
This
and
was last week, huh?
exactly, yes, just
Mm.
last Saturday actually,
Yeah.
where we played compositions of mine, and my intention also is to compose new material for this group. I mean, just to
Mm.
you know to have it as a basis, let's say, to
Interesting.
um, another thing I'm doing here is an as a quintet with where I play the piano and the
Mm.
ney, but mainly the piano, and it is more, let's say, on the classical or jazz part, chamber music,
Hmm.
with Ramon Prats on drums, and then there is also contrabass and cello and violin in the group. We have a concert next February here in Barcelona. And another thing, also all these are in the making, no? We have
Mm.
a concert of four nays together, ney quartet, which
Mm.
is also like
Hmm.
and I don't know if I would call it an experiment. I mean, many nays are very used to getting together and playing together, also in
Yeah.
classes. But this is a thing we're trying to play also some compositions of mine, also to make joint improvisations,
Mm.
and also try the different ideas, which will hope will soon materialize to an
Interesting.
album. Mm.
Interesting. Last question.
Okay.
How can you be accessible?
Me?
Like
I'm not accessible. I
students,
don't. I'm not. I close.
obscure, obscure. So, like, how can people contact you for projects, for classes, for
But
collaboration?
I'm serious, because these days the question has to be not accessible, no? Because I mean, Instagram, Facebook, mail, telephone, everybody can find you anytime. The thing is
Hmm.
how to be. No, I mean, yes, my website is online, my mail is there, and
Hmm.
I'm also on. I use like Instagram and Facebook, so people can very easily contact me through there.
Perfect. Perfect. Let's choose a last piece and then
Okay.
conclude and listen to it. So, what is the last piece to choose for our interview?
So it is from the Atlas CD with a friend,
Mhm.
and I chose it because I liked it also, but also because I don't play the ney there.
Yeah.
And for me, it's just an example of, I play some lafta, but I'm no lafta player. I'm
Mhm.
uh, but it's an example how doing different things can give you some gifts. Let's say, not let's say it's a gift. In the
Mhm.
sense that you take an instrument where you're not fully where you're capable of just doing some things,
Mhm.
but actually the fact that you're changing something
Mhm.
gives you this gift of an idea. Okay, this sounds nice. It's very simple, but maybe this simple thing would not occur to me in the nay, where I do all kinds of stuff.
Mhm.
And I say this because, I mean, you have this traditional, in some places, in Turkey for sure, I think in some circles, that, if you want to be serious music, you should do one thing. And I mean, we
Mhm.
talked about the importance of being focused and concentrated, but I
Mhm.
don't think for me personally, it's not a thing of being rigid also and say, okay, I can not do anything else because I have to focus here. Classical musicians have this a lot. I find
Yeah.
it much, like, oh, okay, so I'm 7 years old. I should really practice violin all day, because if not, I would not make it. The competition is so much, and this is like,
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
maybe for some people it would work, but maybe it will work for 2 out of 1,000, and all the other 998 will come out traumatized from this experience. So just to take it back to the name, you have the, I heard of this concept that if you want to be serious with an A, you should only play the A. If you play the A and something else, it means a bit, maybe you're losing your time or you're spending your time while what you should be doing is studying the A.
Mhm.
Why are you studying the A at this point? So it's a bit stressing. Uh, and I don't say this in order to say that you should be doing more things. I mean, you should do whatever you feel like. If you want
Mhm.
to. When I started to play the A, I didn't say this before. For some years, I don't know if it was 4 years, something, or 5 years. Consciously, I didn't want to listen to classical music. I had a kind of how you call it.
Barrier or
No, barrier. Okay, disgust. Maybe it's too very Turkish word.
disconnected, maybe. Yeah,
Disconnected or
maybe.
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, a kind of, yeah. I didn't want to listen to it because what I was doing at the time was learning something new, and I wanted to be fully concentrated on that, and that's perfectly okay if that's what you
Yeah.
feel. After
Mm.
some years, this changed, and now I'm in love with Bach. I just play every day, and but again, just to finish with Lanao, just an example, when you change something and you go out of the mindset that you're sure that it's your way and whatever, maybe there is something interesting happening in the brain which gives you another perspective or can show other path, but maybe it's not so goes in different way, but maybe it's adding to
Yeah.
what we are doing, and in my case for sure I feel it's adding.
Mm.
Just the experience of studying some laughter with, actually, I studied with Pericles online, with Pericles Papatropoulos, and it's like, okay, I cannot play really the laughter how I would like maybe, but this piece came out and it's nice, and it's we're enjoying it playing it live with a friend and other people. So so yeah, I mean that's my thought of it is that even if we want to do one thing, also we are, this hybridity concept that we are a sum of many, many different things, it will always exist in us. It doesn't, we don't necessarily need to cut it in order to do one thing. But at the same
Yeah.
time, how to be complex, how to accept our complexity, let's say, but
Hmm.
at the same time guide this the focus and the energy and the time to one thing so it can grow. It's like, like a plant, you have to take care of it.
Yeah.
This is not a question, I don't have the answer, but
Mhm.
it makes sense, I think, to have to be conscious of the two things.
Interesting.
Hmm.
We will listen to it, but after we
Okay,
conclude this very,
okay.
really interesting interview. I really loved it. I really enjoyed the time, but I
Me
would
too.
leave the conclusion to you. What do you
Uh,
like to say to conclude? Did you
Thank you
like it?
for. I like it.
Did you like
Thank you
it?
for staying with me, putting up with me for 3 hours and not leaving. I'm grateful for that. No, and
Yeah.
seriously, thank you for the invitation, and I really enjoyed our talk as well. Yeah.
Thank you very much, and we will meet again.